Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, the podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, if it's the first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast, this podcast is about Calvin and I running tabletop RPGs. We both GM a bunch of games, and we both play in a bunch of games, and we like to, talk about our experiences and to show you guys how easy it is to, jump on the other side and become a GM for your gaming group. It's a little scary, but it's actually super rewarding and a lot easier than you think.
Yeah, we take a really casual approach to it because we want y'all to know that it's not as scary as you think once you actually get into it. It's a bit daunting at first, maybe, but you don't have to memorize everything. You don't have to be prepared for everything. And you can also, in fact, play smaller games that don't have 600-page rulebooks.
Yeah. I think there's like an idea where it's like, oh yeah, tabletop RPGs is just like, you gotta buy the rule book, then the monster manual, then all this stuff, and then it's just all of a sudden you have a PhD in running Dungeons and Dragons or whatever because you read so many books, but that's not the case. And you could find smaller, quicker, funner games. Well, I mean, just as fun games, I should say, to play.
So this week I wanted to talk about some different game systems I've been in, because I did like one-shots in like 3 different games recently, and all in different systems. So I wanted to talk about those a bit, maybe get to some mechanics I thought were interesting and some things I want to borrow and use somewhere else. But before we get into that, we have to get into the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Ah yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin this week because he's a nice guy.
This is something that's in my head now, and I was probably going to get into it within the episode, but I can put the premise of the episode up first, I guess, like a professional essay or whatever. Something that I think is really great is borrowing mechanics and stuff from one game to transport them to another. I know there's a bit of a debate about this, and maybe we'll get into it more specifically later, whether you should like just play a different game or homebrew something into a game you like. But I really like the idea of just homebrewing something into the game you like, especially when you can use it for, say, setting and world building. There's one particular, I think maybe it was the Adventure Zone or something like that, and they used a game called The Quiet Year. I haven't seen them play it. I saw Drawfee play it, where essentially a group of players uses like a deck of cards and a drawn out map to create a world space and slowly build a history with it over the course of about a year before the game ends. And they draw cards. The cards create certain events, and the player has to choose between X thing happens or Y thing happens, and then what's the consequence of that? Does it add something to the map? Do new projects or whatever get started on the map? And eventually they're able to build like this world space, and I think it was the Adventure Zone or someone else who used it for, I mean, plenty of people have done this by now, have used it for their D&D settings. And I had done something similar, not with that game, but with a game called Spectaculars, which sort of encourages the players to work together to create their own setting. And it has like these almost Mad Lib style books that you can use for putting in setting details and things like that. And I was using those partially for like a setting for a Mutants and Masterminds game that I was working on before. And I just really like that idea of just taking something that's obviously like a different game or something like that, but you're able to use it and manipulate that into a system with mechanics that you're already used to or that you already enjoy playing. I think like to me, like I get why people would say that it's sort of like, especially something like 5e kind of like strangles other games and systems out of the space, and that's largely fair. But honestly, to me, like if your group likes playing 5e but you want to do something a bit different for your world building, I think using a different game to do that is just like perfectly fine. Like I don't see a difference between doing that or like what I did, and again using a different system to create a world space for your game. I think if you see mechanics that you like, you should just feel free to like use them as you like.
Yeah, right. Think of your own game as like the collection of systems and lore and funny voices and nonsense like that is uniquely you, right? Like you can, I think I always love it when you can take bits and pieces of different systems to do what you want, because these are some good ideas, right? Like obviously the people who create these games have thought about them for probably way too long. and using bits and pieces of it to do what you need to do is totally useful, and I think everyone should do. I think it makes the game really unique, and I think this whole thing about leveraging your players to feel like the world's a little bit more collaborative is the best part, because that's one of the things. Like, everyone just expects that the GM is an island, but really the whole table is impacting into the story and the fun. Yeah, if you think of it that way, we're all playing a game, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, totally.
That's like I think also like world building with your players is just like a really good thing, letting them have influence beyond their own characters, which I think we've talked about this before. Again, like, it just makes it feel like a more collaborative effort, especially if the type of game you want to play is one that's a collaborative narrative type of thing.
Yeah, well, even if it's antagonistic and you're just, you on one side and the 4 players on the other or whatever, you guys are going to fight to the death. At least you can fight to the death together, you know what I mean? Like, anyway, folks, that's your tip of the week, brought to you by Calvin. It's a pretty good one, actually. So maybe you guys can bully him to do it more.
Yeah, definitely. Sure, why not? I don't know. If you see game mechanics you like, feel free to use them in a game that you play more often. That's what it comes down to.
All right, cool.
But let's groove into the show. So recently, I've been playing a bunch of different stuff. Over on the Untold Stories Project channel, I got to play the Marvel Multiverse RPG for the first time. As well, recently, our friend Tim was running some games over the weekend, and we both of us we got like a bunch of different bundles off of sites like Itch.io and Humble Bundle, where they have like a bunch of smaller games in them, supporting like various charities and causes and things like that. And they're probably not ongoing anymore. If any of them are ongoing, I'll have them linked below. But yeah, so we got a couple of games from there, and I wanted to just talk about these 3 different game systems and what I enjoyed about them, and maybe bounce some ideas off of you and see how you feel about them. Cool. So let's start with, I guess, the Marvel game, because this one, I don't want to spoil the plot of it too much. I'd rather people go actually check out the stream. So I don't want to say too much about what happened, especially because there's a really good twist in the middle. But if you want to come by and see me get my butt kicked, then I'll probably put the link in when this gets uploaded to YouTube.
I feel like on a lot of games you get your butt kicked a lot, Calvin.
It's not entirely my fault, but you're kind of right, yeah.
It's just the way the dice roll, I guess.
Kind of. So yeah, the game featured me and a few people that you might have seen in our Lancer game or on other streams on the USP channel. Essentially, we were taking I believe the GM took the pre-made adventure that comes with the Marvel Multiverse RPG for playtesting, and instead of playing the typical Avengers, we were playing the Champions, who are sort of a group of younger heroes. They're like the Teen Titans, Young Justice kind of thing of the Marvel universe. So, there was Nova, the younger version of Nova, Sam Alexander, for those of you who know what that means. Miss Marvel was there, the newer one, the stretchy one. Time-displaced young Cyclops, who, again, if you read Champions, he's the best version of Cyclops. And I was...
Shots fired. I never liked Cyclops. Honestly, he was a little bit overrated, but hey... I don't really read comic books that much, so my opinion is flawed.
I heard one mean comment about Cyclops, and I was like, no, young Cyclops doesn't deserve that.
He's only a kid, man.
Yeah, comics are weird. He got sent to the future somehow, but after his present self was dead, and his present self had killed Professor Xavier at some point, and it was a whole comics thing.
Oh, okay.
But he was there.
Like, lol, not doing that. The jokes had already happened.
Technically, it did.
It's weird. Yeah.
And I was playing Miles Morales, a.k.a. Spider-Man.
What? You were playing Miles Morales Spider-Man?
Heck yeah.
Wow, I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, right. I was kind of like, when I saw the character option, I was like, I want that, but I don't know if anybody else is going to want it. I feel like it's going to be popular. I don't want to be rude, but
yeah,
at the end of it, it was like, I want it.
How aren't there just like 5 Miles Moraleses? Or Moralesi, like
Moralesi.
I don't know.
To be fair, there were some pretty good options in there, so I don't feel too bad about swooping in and taking Miles.
True.
But essentially the game started with us me heading to Avengers Mansion, being called to meet them there, and then an emergency happens, and we got to go suit up and head off and deal with it. It involves some Hydra goons and some of their other allies that showed up later, which involved me really getting messed up. I think I could have avoided some of that damage if I remembered certain mechanics or read certain things a bit more closely, but we can get into that.
Okay. It's okay. All the Spider-Mans forget about their Spidey sense all the time.
True. But essentially, like, I wanted to try to talk about the game, I guess, mechanically. Especially the 616 dice system, which I wasn't really sure what that meant at first, but getting into it, it had some interesting results. Essentially what it is instead of like a D20 based system, it's a 3D6 system.
Yeah, okay.
So you have 2 6-sided die of a particular like color or whatever, and you have one that you put aside that's like supposed to be a special one, and that's your Marvel die.
Oh, okay.
Essentially what that is that anytime you have to roll a check of some sort, well, I guess I should probably explain the Marvel die first. It's essentially, it's obviously 1 to 6, it's a D6. But when you get a 1 on that, it's essentially like, it changes the results of your roll. So as you're rolling your other die, you're adding your numbers into it with your skills and whatnot. Essentially, if you get the 1 on the Marvel die, but you still pass the check, depending on what your other die results are or what your other bonuses are to that roll, then it becomes I think it's a fantastic success.
Oh, okay. It's fantastic. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Like, essentially, if you roll a 1 on that specific die, but still pass the check with the other 2 die and all your bonuses and stuff, then your success is even better.
So I'm assuming if you roll a double 6 and you get the 1,
yes,
it's a 616, so obviously you win.
So that's like spectacular, fantastic, amazing, uncanny.
Someone got a raise for that, I'm pretty sure.
I imagine so.
I was the lead game designer on that, man. Like, give that guy props. Like, that was brilliant. I mean, I could not make 616 into a number into a game like that. Like,
but that's the thing is, like, what's brilliant about it is that you have to get a 1 on one of those 6 die that you're rolling, so you have to be able to get like a higher number on the other ones, as well as have enough bonuses to like land the check that you're trying to get. But if you fail, like say if you fail your check with your die rolls, but you still get a 1 on the Marvel die, then it's a fantastic failure. In that, and it happened to one of the NPCs that we tore through the goons pretty quickly, but one of them did get a fantastic failure on their roll. So even though they missed the hero they were shooting at, they hit some nearby like computer bank desks that caused them to like explode and spark a bit, which caused a bit of like danger in the battle area.
Oh, okay. So it kind of tips the fight, like even though you failed, the fight gets kind of tipped into your favor, slightly, or at least tipped away from your enemies, I should say. Yeah. Like you still get you get something, you just don't get like what you were looking for. So one thing I think that really stood out for me is the concept of edge and trouble. And the rulebook sort of makes a comparison to advantage and disadvantage, but I feel like it's a bit closer maybe to, well, I don't know, maybe it's a bit closer to, what is it in Lancer? Difficulty and accuracy? Yeah. Essentially, it's the sort of thing that, like, it cancels out 1-to-1, which I guess both systems do. It cancels out 1-to-1, where edge is something positive for your roll, trouble something bad for your roll. And depending on what it is, say if you have edge on your roll, then you can, after you roll your die, you can choose one of your die to re-roll if you have enough edge for it. Like, if you have 1 edge, you can re-roll one of your die, which can possibly... If you have 2 edges. It's 2, it's both of them, I guess?
Yeah, I think I don't recall if it applies a limit. I don't think there's a limit, but you only have 3 die in your pool anyway, so... I don't think anybody got over like 2 edge in a roll. Conversely, though, trouble is your opponent making you re-roll a die. So, Spider-Man had an ability that whenever someone targets him with a certain kind of attack that he needs to make I'll explain the ability scores after this. But like, there's agility is one of the abilities, and one of your defenses is based on that. So if someone targets my agility defense, I can give them trouble on that roll, which kind of saved my butt a couple of times. One time, not so much, because they still get whatever the second result is, even if it's higher.
Yeah.
So there was one time where someone was trying to hit me, and they had a 1 on the Marvel die, and they succeeded the roll. So like, if they hit me, it was really gonna hurt. So I was thinking, what could I do? I could either make them re-roll the Marvel die. They might get a higher number. They would get a higher number because it was 1 if they got a different number, so they would still succeed, but it wouldn't be like a fantastic success. Or I can make them re-roll one of the other die. They might fail, but it would be a fantastic fail. So they still get something, but they won't do damage to me. And
okay.
I was pretty rough at that point, so I was like, let's see if you can avoid that damage. And I tried that, but they rolled a higher number, so I still got hit, and it was a fantastic success.
I see. I mean, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that kind of flow a little bit better than, I guess my only other reference for a superhero game would be Mutants and Masterminds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do like Mutants and Mastermind's ability, like the just a sheer flexibility of thing that you can do is kind of crazy. Like that game is like mad robust in its way of like, you want to do something, kid? Like here's all the math. You can figure it out and do it. Kind of
Yes,
deal.
yeah.
Right. But no, man, it sounds awesome. It sounds like quick. It's just like roll the die. If you have the thing, just re-roll it, and then let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. It was I really liked how you were sort of like taking a risk with every roll, especially trying to get someone to re-roll something, because you can't guarantee it'll be lower, but it might be, and it might save your butt, and you can't guarantee it'll be higher, conversely, if you're trying to get an edge on something.
That's true, especially if someone's like a 4 or a 5, something that's like, okay, you landed, but like you could roll higher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But if they roll like a 6 or something, or like something that's like obviously higher, or the 1 on the Marvel die or something like that, you could be like, well, this is the worst it's gonna get for me. I'm pretty safe trying to re-roll this one, right?
Yeah, there are definitely moments where it was like, what are the chances that I can make them fail this roll, or at least what can I do to mitigate their success here?
Yeah,
or
for sure.
improve my
I
success.
think it's pretty cool. I think it's a little bit. It's definitely way riskier than advantage or even accuracy and difficulty from Lancer, or advantage and disadvantage. Just because like when you roll, you're getting the lower result, right? I mean, they both can be like high rolls, so it's not like the worst, but like in a game of D6 where like the worst is only like a couple of points away,
Yeah,
right? Like it's only a few numbers away, then it's like way more significant, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Especially, and there are also situations where like, you already succeeded the check, but you could re-roll that Marvel die and maybe it'll be fantastic because your other die are high enough. Speaking of, you were mentioning how clever the system was, and I wanted to point out, because I feel like I mentioned this when I first heard about this, but it bears repeating. The 6 abilities in the Marvel RPG are Might, Agility, Resilience, Vigilance, Ego, and Logic, the acronym of which is Marvel.
A bunch of losers.
It's very silly, but I love it.
Someone got paid a lot of money to be like, okay, has to be Marvel, right? It has to be. You can't be anything else. You gotta wake up every morning, say your Marvel mantra. Right?
So, I don't know. I thought that's pretty fun. And you essentially have like action modifiers and a defense score based on those things. I guess so. I didn't get into character building because we used like mostly pre-gen characters, although our GM had to make some to fill in the ranks of the champions because they weren't all in the game. I think just Spider-Man and Miss Marvel were, but he had to add a few more.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the way it is that, and this is something that I'm a bit on the fence about, but I have to get into the system itself. Because like you were saying, Mutants and Masterminds, it has that flexibility. Because it doesn't have like a specific class system. You can have archetypes you fall into, but you're not so much like tied by classes. But this one, there are classes in that they're like archetypes.
Oh, really?
Which are...
Is there like a Spider-Man class? Like, you want to play Spider-Man?
Sort of? They're like, I don't know, they feel kind of like vaguely described, like they would have to be like a superhero thing.
Yeah, they got a little bit more shape to them than just being nebulous, right? Than being like an archetype. They're like probably somewhere between an archetype and a class, where it's like these are the things that you have to do, But the way that you do them, it's like up to you, maybe.
Yeah, sort of like that. Like they give you a couple of ability scores that you're good at, and there's Blaster, Bruiser, Genius, Polymath, which is kind of like all over the place, Protector, and Striker, which you can probably maybe take guesses at what they do from their name and what ability scores they give you. I just feel like for a superhero game, it's really awkward to like have classes in any way. Like,
So,
I don't know how
what's
you
the
work.
difference between a bruiser and a striker? Is it like they both hit things?
I think
assuming,
the striker has agility and the bruiser has resilience, but they both rely on like
Oh.
might and melee damage.
Might. I see. Okay. Okay. And like the genius is like the smart man.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
and polymath is like pick any two ability scores to raise the cap of.
Oh, okay. You're just a super guy.
Essentially, yeah. So that's what Spider-Man falls under, and basically
What? Okay.
that's what
so
what they classed him as.
So they made like a whole bunch of they made all these other classes, and it kind of feels like they're like, well, I guess Spider-Man does everything. Stick him in here.
To be fair, other characters like I think Captain America is probably a he's polymath as well. Iron Man's
what?
probably a genius.
Yeah, that makes sense because his brain's first and Metal Suit Man second, right?
Yeah, and yeah, I'm sure like the other ones are different. I'm not gonna look at every character sheet here, but like yeah, I don't know. Classes feel weird for a superhero game, but anywho, like each class has its action modifier and its defense score, and then you can spend points in your ability scores, and then the result gives you like your, say if you're doing a might action, you'll have your might action modifier, but if you need to use a might defense, it gets like a melee attack or whatever, or yeah, I think might was a melee defense, but it depends on what ability is being used, because there were some things that I had to use my resilience defense against that
Okay.
that wasn't super good, but yeah, you'll have
Okay,
your
so-
separate defense score as well.
Cool. So then these ability scores feed into like an array of like stats that are like you have to roll above or below, or like you have to like it's like they basically go into like bonuses and DCs, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like
Yeah. Okay.
the thing that was doing the most damage to me, and it only hit me twice, and it took away 80 of my 90 health.
Excuse me. sounds about Spider-Man, right? You do a bunch of nothing, you flying around, flipping around, all of a sudden you just get caught once. You're like, I'm good.
Yep. But yeah, it was against my resilience defense, which was pretty low compared to my other defenses. Well, not like compared to the other ones, just like compared to my agility, it was pretty low.
Yeah.
What else can I say about this? Damage as well is based on 3d6. Which pretty obvious. Although this one, because the damage is in a check, you don't have to worry about re-rolling it. It does also include, depending on the type of attack and your character abilities, it'll include like your might or your agility. With me being Spider-Man, it would include my agility, and I have like a specific feat for that. They call them traits in this game, but they're essentially feats. Same with powers. And again, this is a thing that I have to get into, like the character building stuff with it, because I'm wondering like how these powers are supposed to work, because I have a power that's specifically like Spider Sense or Spider Strike or whatever, and it's like, is that just something that I specifically have? Like, how do I create that as a player? Do I just take a thing and rename it, or is that something I have to get like equipment or something like that? I don't really know how it works as of yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I can totally see it being like Danger Sense or some sort of thing like that, and you can just rename it as Spidey Sense. But or maybe it's just like, hey, the game is like, hey, do you want to play a Spider-Man? You get these spider powers, right? Like that might be a cool thing, because I think that, you know, half the point of these games, right, is for you to play as the character. I think a lot of people would be pretty cool if I was like, yo, I want to play Wolverine. Let's do that, and then, you know, you build your your team up, and then you just like go out and, I don't know, go punch up Galactus or something, right? Like,
yeah, like I think for me, I'd rather like have a character and be in the world, but there's definitely people who would rather play this for the purpose of being X
Yeah,
and Y character. Yeah.
Well, I think that's like the difference between like Mutants and Mastermind and this game. One's definitely like a branded game with very, very clear, defined like characters, right? Where the other one is just like, hey, do you like making up your own shit? Well, here it is. Make it up. Like,
that's fair. Yeah, I think if you approach like a branded game, yeah, you probably could be more likely to want to play one of those characters.
yeah, I mean, if I was gonna play a Halo RPG, like I would hope I would be like, can I be Master Chief or can I be a Spartan? Because that seems to be the thing that I want to do, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, or if not, I'll just go play, I don't know, some other game with lasers and aliens. And I can just do whatever I want.
That's fair. There was, what else? There's obviously in your turn you have different kinds of actions. Your standard action, which is the action where you do all the normal things. Your movement action, where you can do any type of movements, if I recall correctly. And I also had like web swinging as an option. And then you have like your easy action, which is sort of like the swift action from Pathfinder 1, which is again like something that's less than standard but more than regular, like a free action or whatever. I did forget, because Miles can turn invisible. I thought it was a standard action to do that, so I didn't do it, and then I realized it was an easy action when I was like at 10 HP.
Bruh, like Miles like disappears all the time and punches dudes in the face. That's what you're supposed to do.
Like I know he can do it. I just didn't know mechanically.
Swing in, you do the backflip, you turn invisible. They're like, what? And you go bang.
Yeah, I should have. I don't know. I think I just missed it because it's like. It was just like a small thing on the character sheet. I was like, oh, I can do this as an easy action. So I could have done that from like the beginning of the fight.
Right at the bottom, last thing on the list, Miles Morales can turn invisible.
Basically.
It's like, do this every time. You're like, oh.
Yeah, so there was, this might be a bit spoilery, but there was one moment where me and another player were being targeted by a thing. And we both were able to create, because, what is it called? Your character starts off with a thing called karma, which you can use to cause trouble on someone else's roll or edge on your own roll.
Yeah.
And since we were both being targeted, we both could cause trouble on that person's roll. So, of course, I tried to do that because I was at like 10 health. And I was like, I don't want to get hit by this thing. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for me, it didn't work out. And I was like, very unsubtly encouraging the other player to spend his karma to give that person trouble on their roll. But like for his character, he would have preferred to get hit because his character can absorb the damage from an attack and transfer it into another stat called focus, which they can then use for their attacks. I didn't get into the focus stuff much because Spider-Man didn't have any focus abilities that I saw. But there were a couple characters on the table that did have. Like they spend focus, which is another resource, basically. They spend some points from that, and they can do extra damage or whatever. So he wanted those extra points to do extra damage, but I was like, no, please. Please don't let him hit us.
No, please, not my face. Anything but my face.
I'm a small little spider. But yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty fun game. I definitely want to try it again with a different character, and I'm very curious how character building works, but I had fun with it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I mean, that'd be kind of cool to, play Star-Lord. Yeah, let's do that. I want to play Star-Lord. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, it's probably in there. I know it comes with a bunch of pre-gens, so Star-Lord might be one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, that was the Marvel Multiverse RPG. And I did play some other stuff with our good friend Tim. So he ran a couple of games.
That's his full title, by the way. He's our good friend Tim.
That is his. Yes, that is his full official title. And he will be addressed as such. So one of those games, which I kind of missed the beginning of, but I got in just in time, is a little game of chaos that is called You Are 100 Goblins.
Oh, that already sounds about right.
And it's literally each player, aside from the Goblin Master, each player controls 100 goblins.
Okay. And
So this is one of those one-page, very more narrative-focused RPGs, and it was kind of really hard for me personally to like turn off gamer brain and just go into Chaos Goblin brain because I kept trying to like overthink things instead of just like jumping into danger.
yeah, realize that, like, you have 100 goblins, or you know what I mean. So like one or two of them is like whatever.
Yeah, we're fine. So essentially, the way the game is played is the Goblin Master will generate a quest, and there's a list of like 1d4 things and then 1d4 tasks. Like you can save, destroy, steal, or find like some 1d4 random object.
Yeah.
And that's essentially like the short description of the quest, and then you take your goblins and you do various things to try to achieve that goal, with occasional dangers thrown your way by the Goblin Master. And as you're trying to figure out how to solve your way through these dangers to get to your objective, the Goblin Master has to decide how risky your action sounds on a value of 1 to 5. And depending on the risk factor, you roll a different sided die, and the result you get on that die is the number of goblins that are killed in you committing that action. So something with a risk factor of 1, you roll a d6 and you lose 1d6 goblins. Something with a risk factor of 5, you roll 1d20 and you lose 1d20 goblins. And your goal is to complete the quest with at least 1 goblin left.
What? At least one? That's so funny.
Yeah.
Just a massacre. This one dude is like, I did it.
Yep. Spoiler alert, I did have 1 left.
Give that guy a promotion.
It was literally 1 when we got to the end of the game. You can also, with your clan of goblins, which you can name, you can give them their own like level of chaos, like their general risk factor, and when you have that, you're able to like reduce the risk on a roll. If you do something that's at their risk level, then you can reduce like the amount you have to roll for that. But essentially, I was trying to be like smart, calm, clever goblins. I was playing the Snillbog clan, which is goblins backwards because I couldn't think of a better name.
Oh, cool.
Our friend Quack, who's in the Phandelver game, was playing the Quack Pack, and Chibi, who's in our Phandelver game and in the Fateseer game, was playing the Fuck Tribe.
Nice.
So yeah, we got this random quest to steal a holy banner, which essentially just involved us traveling towards where the banner was kept. We passed a town along the way where we stopped to like raid and attack it. I was trying to be smart and do some looting.
We got 300 goblins descended onto a town.
Basically,
Jesus.
yes.
Oh my god. It's like DJ for those people. Jeez. Call it Sandpoint, dog. Like, man, that place got messed up.
I did think it did remind me of Sandpoint. But yeah, we descended on that town. We tried to raid it and tried to find the thing. We did manage to find a map that we couldn't really read very well, but it did give us a direction. And then yeah, we just traveled on facing certain things. We came across like a cave of bears. There was a river we had to cross, which of course we kidnapped some we kidnapped some beavers to use them as chainsaws to cut down some trees to block the river and use the logs to cross instead of just going to the bridge.
How did you kidnap beavers? They didn't live anywhere.
Well, we took them from wherever they were.
Was that specifically what you guys told Tim? Was like,
That
we're
is-
gonna kidnap some beavers.
I believe that's the word we used.
Okay. Alright.
So yeah, we got some beavers. We used them to create like a log bridge that fell apart pretty fast. We ran into some farmland, which was, we stopped to like steal some food from there. And it was surprisingly well protected by some farm dogs.
The massacre. Man.
And yeah, and then we just headed on to like this larger town. We were trying to steal the banner. We ran into a whole bunch of guards. And again, this is a more narrative thing. So we're just like describing what we're attempting to do. Like I was trying to dig a tunnel underneath the wall, which didn't work out in my favor. I lost like 7 dudes there. The Quack Pack was a bit more direct. The Fuck Tribe was going like around the wall. The Quack Pack also was setting a whole bunch of fires because they were like maximum chaos. So a lot of goblins died in fire.
Well, you know what? This actually, we spoke about this earlier about using different systems to, influence your game and help you like run games a little bit better. This game is actually hilarious because it just sounds like a real D&D campaign where, obviously you're playing the heroes and then 300 goblins descended on your town, and this is what they're doing.
Yeah, I did that. That was something that I kind of thought about, like playing the backstory of someone who just lives in this town, and then suddenly one day a horde of goblins just rumbled in.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a whole arc of a campaign or a whole campaign where it's just like these goblins literally siege this town trying to get this banner. And you could definitely have like little segments or set pieces based on like whatever you guys did in this game. Like that sounds hilarious, and
definitely
yeah, you could even describe like all the 3 goblin tribes and how like one of them tried to be kind of smart, but like they're not that smart.
No, it didn't work out in their favor.
Yeah.
But yeah, while the Quack Pack was causing chaos in town, the Snowball Clan and the Fuck Tribe were able to burst into the building where the banner was being kept. They cut it down, and the Fuck Tribe headed out with it. The Snowball Clan... So the Fuck Tribe came in through the back, and they left out through the back. The Snowball Clan came in through the front, and they tried to go out through the front, but there was a whole lot of fire, so a bunch of them died, so they went the other way. Oh and we all managed to eventually get some of us out, and we managed to steal that holy banner that they were hiding. With the 300 total goblins we started with, only 24 survived.
Nice.
Which is sounds about right.
That's hilarious. It's like such good. That's so funny. And I would totally love to play this game. I'm really
Is it 24? Oh no, wait. Sorry, my math was wrong. It was 23.
Oh, my bad.
It was 16 from the Quack Pack, 6 from the Fuck Tribe, and then 1 from the Snowball Clan.
The Snowball Clan thought they were smarter than they actually are.
Apparently. It's because every time I did something that was 5, well, not every time, but there was one time I did something that was 5 risk, and I rolled a nat 20. And I was like, oh god.
The one time you don't need that.
Exactly. And then towards the end, when we were trying to get out, we were forming like a goblin ladder to climb down. And the risk factor, it was a D8, and I had 9 goblins left. So I was like, okay, well, this won't kill me. But then I rolled an 8 on it, and I was like, oh, wow. I had 1 guy left.
I like the game. The game sounds fun. I like the fact that you still win if you have 1.
Yes.
Like it's not, the whole point is to just complete the task, and if you the only way you can't complete it is if everyone dies. But if one person's able to come back alive, you did it, Chief. Like
I see this as an absolute win.
Nice. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that's... How long was the game, actually? Was it...
I didn't really time it. Maybe like an hour and a half or so. Really or like hour and a half, maybe a couple hours at most. I lost track of time, so I don't really know exactly how long it was.
True, but it was like... You did this in a game, I guess it was night for those guys, but like in like a session where it's like, you guys played multiple games, so it'd be kind of fun to add this game to like someone's like rotation where you just want to hang out with your friends and do something kind of goofy. Yeah,
that's the benefit of like these very short games, is you can just like hop in, do something quick and silly, and then hop out. There's no pressure to make it a very lengthy thing because you memorize 600 rules for it.
Shit, it'd be funny as hell to do this in a D&D campaign where everyone just like everyone just like takes a break or whatever, right? Like mid-campaign or something like that, and be like, you guys want to play the bad guy goblins and just play this game? And then when your players get back to actually playing the game, they go back to the area and be like, "What the hell happened here?" And there's like the telltale signs of, what the Goblin tribes got up to while you were gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely use this game for something like that. I'll have the itch.io page for this game below as well if you want to go check it out. And again, if the bundle is still active. I forget which ones these were from because I just got a whole bunch of them at one point. So definitely go check it out. It was a really fun game to play, and I'm glad my one goblin made it.
Nice.
The new chief of the Snowball clan.
New chief. So funny.
So that was the first game we played, and then afterwards we played a really interesting heist game, the Control C Crew, a heist game where you're stealing an NFT by essentially copy pasting it.
What are you guys, hackers? Like, they're hacking into the mainframe. Control C. Control V. We did it.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
So yeah, this one I really like how this was written. This one's a bit longer just because it has like classes and stuff, but I really like how the flavor text in this game is written. It just feels like a very it's clearly like a parody. It just feels very fun to read. Like everything is just like an interesting, like clever little quip. Like your character abilities. So essentially, I guess I should probably describe how the game works first. Essentially, your characters will have certain stats in like sneak, tech, charm, muscle, and plan, which are sort of, I guess, self-descriptive. Like sneaking is your stealth, obviously. Tech is your hacking. Charm is your charming and persuading people. Muscle is your strength, and planning is like your quick thinking sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So you'll have different stats in that, and you will have different classes. The classes, of course, being the Code Monkey, which is like the hacker type, the Critic, who's sort of like sort of a witty bard critical type who can sort of make people feel bad and knock them out.
Oh, okay.
The Cutthroat, who is sort of like the tough fighter. The Cat Burglar, who is sort of like the sneaky kind of person. The Copycat, kind of the brains of the outfit, the one working on the plans, and the best class in the game, Carl. Just someone named Carl.
Oh, nice. Just played a regular dude named Carl. Killer. Who is Carl?
Just a guy. Literally.
No, I mean in the game, did somebody choose Carl?
No, he was being saved as an NPC just because of how his ability works, which is essentially like you can call him in for assistance and he just appears there when you need him the most.
Okay, cool.
He was set up for use as an NPC, but I just really liked his I like how he's just Carl. And yeah, and each character had like passive abilities that they could use, as well as a twist that they can use once per game, which is essentially like they do something that gets you the resource you need in that moment. So the Code Monkey can like hack and get a resource you need. The Cat Burger's like, oh no, don't worry, I stole this like an hour ago and I have this thing that we need. And Carl has the ability to be like, don't look at me, I'm just the blank, and he just happens to have the profession that we need at that moment for some particular skill set.
Nice. I like that Carl is like the best. Like he's like the best character because he's like everyone's character.
Essentially.
He's just a dude. But no, that's really cool. I like that. Like it has like a the heist movie vibe where they have like the flashback.
Yes.
Where they're like, oh yeah. You think they're in trouble, but actually, we planned 2 steps ahead.
Exactly. We were definitely playing some Ocean's 11 music when we were playing this, and I really like the mechanics of the twist. It's fairly similar to how flashbacks work in Blades in the Dark, where essentially you can, when you're in the middle of a heist, you can flash back and say, well, I did this thing, and it's going to give us this bonus at this moment. That's basically what the twist does, just with less mechanics. It's just kind of like, you only get to use it once, but then you can then say like, oh, don't worry, I know a guy, and then you can get a contact that you might need at this moment, or like you just have a weapon that you need in this moment, or you've already stolen something that you need in this moment, which I think is pretty interesting. It is something that I wanted to adapt because I've been like working on and off on trying to finish off my supervillain heist game for Mutants and Masterminds that I keep like sort of working on and then not working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it had like this game had like a bunch of interesting stuff that I wanted to borrow, but it also, like the last one, it had like a randomly generated quest kind of thing, where we ended up having to steal this NFT off of a server contained on a super yacht.
Oh, a super yacht. Okay. Nice.
And yeah, I just had a lot of fun. Like we all were discussing what we wanted to do, the prep we needed before the mission. We were going to pose as a supply crew and get on there with like a delivery van. And then we were going to take the hard drive out of the server, replace it with a fake one. So we're trying to figure out, like, we need the disguises, we need a fake hard drive, we need, like, fake wine and cheese and stuff. For some reason, we needed an
Why does it have to be fake wine and fake cheese?
Well, the cheese was real, but the wine was fake.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute, this food's rubber.
Those guys are fakes. And for some reason, we had an explosive pen as well.
Oh, yeah, just to, seal the deal, right?
Exactly. And our characters, so Chibi was playing the cutthroat muscle guy, Chad Just, because he's just Chad.
Oh, nice.
Quack was playing the charming critic, Jorge Swooney, who has nothing to do with George Clooney.
Nice.
And I was playing the cat burglar, and I mentioned this offhand on a stream yesterday, but it was gonna originally be like a Catwoman kind of thing, so I had like sneak and charm and a bit of tech. But then I saw that the twist ability was called Sticky Fingers, so of course I was like, wait, no, I gotta make this a JoJo reference, which is a thing I'm addicted to doing, apparently.
Calvin, you're in way too deep.
I am. Of all my hyper obsessions, it's lasted surprisingly long and surprisingly, like, to this degree.
Nope. Honestly, it is just how it is. So when you start liking JoJo's, man, it's just like sometimes you just get lost in the sauce and you can't find your way out.
Oh,
it's too much.
Absolutely.
Too many. It's too good. Sometimes things are just too good, and you're like, why would I reference anything else? It already was in JoJo's.
I need something new to come along.
And then you start seeing cracks in reality where you're like, wait a minute, I think all of this is a JoJo's reference. Then it's over for you.
I saw a news story about the Mona Lisa. I was like, resist the urge. I can't make a JoJo reference here. But anyway, so I saw like the ability that I have, and they're all like titled with like different quips. Like one of them is, don't you just love it when a plan comes together?
Yeah.
And the one that I had as the cat burglar was, it's a good thing. In that case, it's a good thing I have sticky fingers, which is like at some point in the past I stole something that we need. That we can use on this mission. And because it's sticky fingers, I was like, oh, like the guy from part 5. So my character was then named Bruno Zipperman, which is dumb and terrible, and I think I'll burn out of this eventually. So anyway, Bruno, Chad, and Jorge, they snuck onto this boat posing as delivery crew. We get to get past some chefs, which involved doing some charming. So the way the dice system works in this game is your skills, they typically go from 1 to 3, and that is the number of d4s that you roll, and getting a result on 4 on any of those die counts as a success on your attempt to do something.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Yeah, which I thought was pretty good. I think that was like a very like simple die system. Like it's not yeah, I mean, it's just a simple die system. It's very easy to learn. Like, you're just trying to get a 4. The higher your skill is, the more chance you have of getting a 4. You can still get 1 if you roll 1 die, but you have a better chance if you roll 3, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was essentially what we were doing. We stuck onto the ship. We had to get past some of these chefs. We charmed our way past them, distracting them with our quote-unquote excellent wine, which they wouldn't know wasn't excellent for a while. And, yeah, I stole one of the guys' key cards, and that helped us get a bit further. We had to deal with some laser alarms and laser gates, As we were going on, and this is another thing I wanted to borrow from this game, there were like randomly generated like obstacles in our way. So
Ooh.
some of them would be like the number of guards or whatever. Some of them would be like, oh, there's a person who's around here, or there's some security, or some like sudden issue, or like the power goes out or something like that. Which I thought would be an interesting thing to add like complications to a heist game, because that's how heists tend to go. There's something that happens that you didn't plan for, and you have to adapt around.
Okay. So it generates like an obstacle. So like that laser grid or laser gate or whatever is like something that was randomly generated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I recall correctly that is what the case was. I don't remember where it is in the book, but yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool.
So yeah, we had to find our way through that. We did end up setting off the alarm, so some guards came down, but we knocked them out. We got their uniforms, so that was pretty helpful, and we had their key cards. And then, you know, we moved on. As we were moving on, we came across like a janitor who was like, thought that they recognized Bruno from college. So we're trying to talk our way past this guy, and we got him to mention where the actual server was. And then when we're in there, we have to do some hacking. And because I'm the only person with tech skill, I had to basically put on the VR headset and hop into the metaverse. And it's for some reason in VR, I right-clicked and saved the NFT.
Like with a mouse.
Yup.
Funny.
Meanwhile, the other two, Jorge and Chad, were dealing with some random teenagers who had shown up and started like graffitiing the walls
On the cruise ship.
Yeah, apparently their parents were like trillionaires, so
Oh, of course.
they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. So yeah, they were dealing with those guys, trying to get rid of them, but unfortunately I accidentally set an alarm off. Iron bars showed up on the door. I needed help to get out. The other two were able to get rid of the teens and pass a key card to me, so we could unlock the bars that blocked the door, and then we had to make our way out, just by pretending that my character was a thief that got caught by them because they were in the security guard uniform.
Classic.
It worked pretty well, but unfortunately, we got back to where our vehicle was and we realized that the boat had pulled out of the port.
Oh. Now what are you guys gonna do?
Well, that is where some twists came in, because Chad used his twist to help punch our way through some guards, and then Jorge used his twist to allow a helicopter to show up right when we needed it.
Oh, nice.
So,
you guys, like, hopped on the helicopter and...
Yes, essentially, we hopped on the helicopter, we threw down the explosive pen as a distraction. Took some shots at the guards, and then we were able to scramble up to the helicopter. And then, because I hadn't used my plot twist in the game, I used it right at the end to say that I had swiped some wine when we were in the kitchen. We used that to celebrate. But yeah, it was a fun little heist game. I just really liked the insertion of, like, complications, and I really liked the way that it had, like, the way it described the twists that you could add to, like, improve things for you. It was certainly a thing I was looking at with like Blades in the Dark, how it has those flashback mechanics, but I really like the way it was described here, so I think I might, borrow some elements of that.
Yeah. I think it's kind of cool to use that in any situation. I mean, giving players like an ability to just kind of add their own spin into the narrative, I think really makes it more fun. Because I mean, it's like, it kind of sucks when you have like an idea of what your character is good at or whatever, and then it's just based on like the dice roll because you didn't have enough points to put in there or something like that, right? Like, it does kind of suck when you do that, but it's cool because it just gives the players a little bit more agency to know that, like, and if you're in a sticky situation, you can just be like, boop, the game keeps going. Like,
yeah, that's what I like in these low stake narrative games. Like, they focus more on the collaboration. That's something I think is really great here. I kind of wish more games did that, like just giving the players more space to be involved in the plot.
Yeah.
Beyond just what the character does.
I think that's like the trend of like newer games.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder by association are like they're because they have a lot of legacy stuff to them, right? Where everything was a little bit more separate that kind of deal. But now I think newer games are just kind of implement more play for everybody, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great thing about indie games. So definitely, if you want to try out games like that, go hit up their itch.io pages. There's a whole bunch of small indie games on there that you might not have thought of, you might not have tried them. They could be fun for a few hours, and you might find you want to use them to either improve another, like add on to another game, or create something for your world building in another game.
Yeah. What's that guy's name? Clive?
Carl?
Carl? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to have a Carl in my games. I think that's like a good thing I'm going to steal from that game. Just like, you guys have one dude who's your dude. He'll just show up and do a thing.
That's basically what he is. He's like a nicer version of the Fallout mysterious stranger. Okay. We could get into maybe a couple other topics. There was, well, I guess we spoke plenty about like playing in new systems versus altering and homebrewing mechanics. Mm-hmm. That was something that I saw going around a while, because I keep too much of an eye on TTRPG discourse. But I think we kind of said up top how we feel about it. I definitely feel like there's value in taking something from one game, putting it into another. There's definitely a lot of people who feel like people should be playing games other than 5e, but if I'm being honest, like I feel like if a group of people enjoys the game, they should just play the game they enjoy. That's not...
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like people are saying that you should support other creators who are working on different projects, because it's like overall it's like it's just healthier for like your hobby if there's like lots and lots of different things you can do. That means everyone has to make something good. If everyone plays Dungeons and Dragons, then like, you know, it gets a little stale and a little repetitive, but you know, you can spice up your games by adding in, you know, other games in it, like put a game within a game, that kind of deal. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, there's definitely, like, I do think there's a lot to be said for trying other things, especially for like the hobby overall. I just I think it's still fair that some people just like, they have that one thing that they like to play with their friends, and it's not necessarily that if they're not playing 5e, they'll play a different RPG. They might just like go to the movies or whatever. But yeah, you know, I think I don't know. There was a lot of people that if I felt more urged to, I'd just be like, hey, you know what? Some people just like that game. It's kind of all it is. I like. There's definitely like, I think it would be good overall for people to try different things, but I'm coming from the position of someone who plays like different games and stuff, or who very frequently plays RPGs and who cares about the RPG space. So like, yeah, obviously I care about seeing what different mechanics exist in other games and things like that. If we're talking just like a group of people who hang out once a week or whatever, and they need something to do, and this is the thing that they do, I don't know if the same concept applies.
Well, I think we come from kind of we're obviously the perspective of lots of different games are good, and also if you just want to take bits and pieces of it and make your own thing, that's good too, because I'm definitely a person who takes apart games and puts in his own nonsense and you know, just makes stuff up all the time. Like you can't, like I run like Pathfinder primarily and Lancer afterwards, but like even in those two systems, like I don't run it the way it's supposed to be ran. I guess. Yeah, I often just make stuff up or just tell people to just roll a die and see what happens, that kind of deal, right? And I often like make up my own game systems. Like you could even see it in our stream. I think it was the heist, if you could call it a heist, for the you know, the Blue Horizons or whatever I call them when you guys are invaded that base. The whole, you know, like the little mini game inside of the game of Lancer, where you know you're trying to get to one square and there's like a whole array of stuff that could happen to you. So it's just like, you know, that kind of deal. Like just it's good. I think it's good, and I think the people who are saying that go play a different game just really wants players like other games to get the same kind of love, because they love it too, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of it. If I'm being completely honest, like if someone's saying like, I wish I could do X thing in 5e, and someone says, well, just play this game. Like, I don't really feel like that's not really what the person was asking. They were like,
yeah, what they should do is like, hey, it's play this game and then steal it afterwards for your 5e.
Yeah.
Because like here's an example in this game how they do this, and to really get the full reason of why it's good, I think you should just go play it, right? Especially these smaller games. Man, that Goblin thing sounds hilarious.
It is like it is brilliant. I love that game.
I'm like so sad. Tim, I know you're listening. Play this game with me.
I mean, to be fair, you're pretty busy for very reasonable reasons.
Yeah, I know. I'm sad. I'm sad too.
But yeah, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say, like, I think if you want people to, like, if you see someone who wants to do something in a certain kind of game, I think as much as telling them to play a different game could be an answer, you could also just say, hey, this game has these mechanics, maybe you can use them in your game. I think that's something that people can do and can figure out. I mean, again, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who, like, cares about RPG mechanics, but I think people can figure out how to adapt certain things if they give it a go, if they see how it works in another system. I don't think just saying play a different game is a full answer.
Yeah, most games are just roll the die, and then if the number is high enough, you win, right? Like,
I mean, you're right.
it.
That's kind of that's kind of like every game I talked about here, except for maybe the Goblin one.
So it's like everything beyond that's like political, man. Anyway, I think we're good to call it here, Calvin.
Yeah, that is going to be the episode for this week. I think we kind of finished off with a bit of a ramble there. I don't know what I'm going to call it when I do the timestamps, but I'll see.
Classic one with dice. Flim-Flam.
Like another sprinkle of classic Flim-Flam. But yeah, I will have links to UR100 Goblins and the Control-C crew itch.io pages below. If any of the bundles that I participated in, they were like, I'll have them below if they're still active. I don't think all of them are, but all the ones I've picked up personally, I'll have links below. So you can definitely go check those out. I do also want to make sure we shout out certain people, such as the Liminal Space Lancer edition that you can find in Drive-Thru RPG, as well as Vex Verolf on Twitter. You can find their the next chapter of In Golden Flame was recently put out. And of course the Untold Stories Project channel, where if you want to see me get my butt kicked to Spider-Man, you can go there and do that. As well as their weekly space-based superhero game. You can see my descent into villainy. I feel like that's the direction my character was going in. I don't know how to put the brakes on that, or if I want to. So definitely go check all those out. They're going to be linked below, and I think that's going to do it for this week, unless you have anything else you want to say, Ramon?
I think we should say goodbye.
Alright, well, just imagine my voice as 100 goblins, and they are all reminding you to keep on winning with dice. And that we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye guys.